The Cincinnati Bengals have added a backup nose tackle to the practice squad, and McKInnley Jackson is on notice. Let's break it down.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jake Liscow. He's James Rapien, and we've been covering your Cincinnati Bengals here on Locked On Bengals since 2016. So if you're looking for that consistent, reliable, insightful daily source of Bengals coverage, you are in the right place. And we appreciate all you everydayers out there, everyone who makes us their first listen, has those good listening habits out there. Appreciate you for making us part of your routine. Today's episode, we're going to dive into a number of different topics around the Bengals right now, including the addition of Mike Pennel to the practice squad in a move that will reportedly lead to him eventually being elevated, potentially having 53-man roster potential. We have an indication that that right guard battle might not be over on offense, which is bewildering going into week one if that is indeed the case, but it might not be the case. We're going to circle back to the defense to finish up the show, talking about reasons for optimism and obviously some reasons for concern in today's episode, brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers with FanDuel can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. James, we start with Mike Pennel, a true nose tackle addition to the Bengals practice squad, who aren't looking to dip into the street free agent waters on the defensive interior this year.
Yeah, it's nice to see them continue to add a guy that has played in big games, has won Super Bowls, has played against the Bengals in big games, and has been pretty solid. And whether it was during his time in Green Bay early in his career, where he signed as an undrafted free agent, spent a few years with Jerry Montgomery, all the way to last year, where he had 3 of his 5 career sacks were last season. So I think this is the type of move that you want to see the Bengals make, not the week 4 Lawrence Guy move, the regular season veteran addition that played pretty well last year, that still feels like he has something left. And now you can see if he does. And if he does, he's probably going to make his way to the active roster. And he's probably going to be TJ Slayton's backup and be that true nose tackle that, let's be honest, and this is as much about a McKInnley Jackson as anything, I don't think anyone really thought he was going to be the true nose tackle that the Bengals needed last year. And it was evident by what they did, how they did it with Sheldon Rankins, how they deployed these guys. So balances out the roster a bit more. And also it's going to be a numbers game in that defensive line room. But overall, I like adding Mike Pennel, especially early on here where he's 34. You get him on the practice squad, you get him cooking. And then if you need him in a week or two, he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Mike Pennel edition, in terms of the way it was reported, just from a intriguing verbiage perspective, is the way Jordan Schultz wrote about it, and the way Jeremy Fowler wrote about it. Jeremy Fowler tweeted, veteran DT Mike Pennel signing with the Bengals, practice squad initially with active roster capabilities. And maybe that's just coming from the agent, but Jordan Schultz also wrote, the plan is to start Pennel, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, on the practice squad, and then get him elevated early in the season. Another veteran addition to Cincinnati. So that's where the commentary about McKInnley Jackson comes into the picture here. And maybe this has nothing to do with McKInnley Jackson. Maybe this is Howard Cross. You're on notice. Maybe we like McKInnley Jackson more than Howard Cross still, if we're the Cincinnati Bengals front office and coaching staff. Although we have a lot of evidence that suggests that they really like Howard Cross and that they've been skeptical about McKInnley Jackson throughout the preseason. And this is another piece of evidence to add to that file where they might have looked at their roster and said, well, McKInnley Jackson, there's a nose tackle body on a player that doesn't play like a nose tackle stylistically. Mm-hmm. And Mike Pennel, well, here's a nose tackle body. He's what, 332 at 6'4", who plays stylistically. a little bit more like a nose tackle. His strengths are more in the run game than as a pass rusher, where McKInnley Jackson is more of a penetrator, gap shooter, wants to get upfield. A bit of a different stylistic approach from those two guys. Although it is worth noting, a lot of B gap experience for Mike Pennel in recent years. Was more of an A gap player earlier in his career, but in the last 4 years, significantly more snaps, 3 technique B gap than A gap nose tackle. So that's interesting.
It's interesting because the beef lineup of TJ Slayton and Mike Pennel next to each other, just clogging up everything. No, I think it is because everyone went to McKinley. I did too, like mindset wise, when you see this. But what if it is, like you said, Howard Cross, and they think that this is how they're going to get more out of McKinley Jackson, what he's better suited for? Like, we'll see. Let's let it play out here. I'm certainly not, I don't want to go doom and gloom because the Bengals signed a 34-year-old to their practice squad when it comes to a second-year, third-round pick. But it is eyebrow raising. It's something to pay attention to, especially when you look at the preseason, how things went for McKinley Jackson. He was productive in that first preseason game with 3 tackles for loss, but he was also out there in the fourth quarter and it was out there late in these games. So clearly they wanted to get him snaps. Clearly that's where he was in the pecking order, but that doesn't mean he's going to get cut. If Mike Pennel does get not just elevated, but signed to the 53-man roster. But overall, Jake, and this continues a theme, and for those that didn't listen or watch, it's a holiday weekend. I get it, to our episode yesterday. We talked about Jabril Peppers and potentially going after him. I like that the Bengals are being a bit more proactive this year. I think I go back to what Zach Taylor said last week when they kept 6 defensive tackles initially. Obviously, they lost Eric Gregory on waivers to the Patriots. But he was like, last year we realized we needed to keep some depth there because they had to call Lawrence Guy, and it's a bad position to be in. And so getting ahead of it, even a little bit, being a little more proactive than they've been, even if you wanted more defensive tackle help months ago, at least they're able to get a guy that had a pretty good year last year for the Chiefs and played in all 17 games.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to. And I said they didn't want to have to be signing guys off the street in the middle of the season. And that was a reference to what they really had to do. And their defensive tackle depth got tested last year. But with Mike Pennel, if he is what he was last year, and he hasn't fallen off a cliff, he should be a good run defender for you. And he played really well against the Bengals in week 2 last year. So that's probably part of it too. Like, the Bengals' most recent memory of Mike Pennel was him playing well against them last year. He also was pretty good for the Chiefs back in 2019 and 2020 before he departed for a couple of years and then returned to the Chiefs and kind of found his footing again in 2024. He can be a role player for you unless he's totally fallen off the cliff. And that's the risk with this kind of move. But a guy that I really respect in terms of the Chiefs film grinder world, Seth, whose last name I need to verify, Seth Kaiser, who I've talked to about the Chiefs in the past. Again, a guy that I respect as far as film grinding goes with the Chiefs, wrote about this after Pennel signed with the Bengals and said he'll give you good snaps against the run, against quality opponents if he's the same guy. Hate the Kansas City, let him go. And the barometer for these moves for a lot of people, a lot of times, James, is what does that other fan base think? The guys that had him last, are they upset about this? The way like Patriots fans are a little bit upset that Jabril Peppers is available now, versus, is a reaction like, oh yeah, no, you can have him. We're done with that guy. We're not interested in that guy being on our team. If one of the film guys that I really trust in the Chiefs world is not happy that Mike Pennell's gone from the Chiefs, that seems like a good thing for the Bengals.
For sure. And sometimes just say it out loud, a run stopper. They could use some of that. They could use some beef. They could use some nastiness. They could use some guys in the trenches that are been there, done that. And I go back to the relationship with Jerry Montgomery as well. I certainly think about that. I mean, this guy's an overachiever, undrafted, and is able to have the career that he's had. And so nice addition at this stage. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see if he makes the 53 at some point, contributes. Could he be active on Sunday? You never know. It depends on how they feel about it, because guess what? The Cleveland Browns, spoiler, are going to want to run the ball a lot on Sunday against the Bengals. But there's plenty to discuss when it comes to this Bengals offensive line. So it's a trench episode. This is right up most of our listeners and viewers' alley, Jake. We're going to get to the right guard battle and other comments from Dan Pitcher coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football season is here, and I'm in at least 4 Yahoo Fantasy leagues, including the all-new Guillotine League, and you should play fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league, season kickoff is Thursday. That's right, this Thursday, September 4th. I can't believe it's here, Jake, but it's here. And if you want more ways to play, well, you got to try the Guillotine League mode in Yahoo Fantasy, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. If you want to play with friends, well, the new Draft with Friends mode is awesome. And if you're like me and play the classics, well, of course, you can get your crew together, go head-to-head in a private league, and no crew, no problem. They have plenty of public leagues as well. I'm in a public league, the Guillotine League, plenty of private leagues as well. The NFL season kicks off September 4th. So don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Jake, let's dive into the right guard battle. We're 6 days away from the start of the regular season. We don't know who the starting right guard is. Dan Pitcher stopped short of saying that or throwing confidence behind whoever is going to start. It's not like he said, oh, well, Lucas Patrick, we feel really good about him there, but we haven't named a starter yet. He didn't really give any hints. Lucas Patrick, Jalen Rivers, and obviously Dalton Risner, who they signed last Thursday, all mentioned as candidates. Are you buying this, or do you think they've made up their mind?
Yeah, the real question is, how much are we buying this idea that there's actually still a right guard battle? It's week 1. It's Monday of week 1. Less than a week away from football games as we record this episode for the Cincinnati Bengals. So how much are we buying it is a real question. Before I dive into that a little bit further, just a quick reminder, you can check out that survey we've been talking about lately here on Locked On Bengals at lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Just looking for a few bits of feedback about what you like, what you don't like, answer questions about our advertising. You have a chance to win a $100 gift card at lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You fill out the survey, you get entered to win one of those 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So back to the question at hand, James. How much are we buying that there's a competition here? Here's how I buy that there's a competition at right guard in week 1. Dalton Risner gets way ahead of this thing in terms of learning the offense, shows that he understands this graduate level Joe Burrow offense right away, and forces his way onto the field. Lucas Patrick dealing with some injuries, but has been around, understands what's going on. I don't know that I really buy that Jalen Rivers is involved. Nice for Dan Pitcher to mention him. We know that he was immediately getting work at left guard. I think this is if Risner really gets ahead of this and really figures out the game plan for week 1 and is able to understand enough of this offense that he's not a liability if Joe Burrow wants to change a play to something we didn't talk about for the game plan this week, then Risner could push for that. But that's really the only way that I'm buying. There's a significant open competition here on Monday of week 1.
By the way, I think that's what everyone should be rooting for. That doesn't mean that Risner needs to start this week. And I don't want that to, because it is week 1 and Lucas Patrick's taken a ton of snaps and repped at starting right guard for over a month now, it seems like, outside of those early snaps at center in training camp. And so I'm sure they're comfortable with him there, and I do think that's the route they go. But how awesome would it be if Dalton Risner hits the ground running so much so that they are having a conversation, that he does force their hand a little bit? Knowing the Bengals, like I think we know the Bengals, behind the scenes, I think they've maybe not told Lucas Patrick, but they're comfortable with Lucas Patrick starting on Sunday. And they're not going to react to Twitter and all these things that we see in all the comments and stuff. But the public confidence in Lucas Patrick is much, much different than their confidence, I believe, in Lucas Patrick and what he's done in the film he's put out there. And I think that's more accurate than not. I think he's been better than people would say, that the average fan would say. But if Dalton Risner forces them to really consider it and keep that door open, even if it's cracked, to where they're really considering him starting a game 10 days after he signed with the team. Like that's pretty cool. And so that's what I hope happens. Now, maybe it's the other way. Maybe I'm completely off on Lucas Patrick and they're just really down on him. And they think that Risner, if he gets up to speed even enough, they'll go that route because they think they're going to go there anyway. I just don't get that sense. I don't get the vibe that that's how they feel. And so if Risner is in the mix late in the week to start, I think it's because he forced their hand a little bit, and that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say the other interesting thing here that might have given us some clarity. We still haven't seen Dalton Risner's contract, and I was still very interested to see like how much money was actually attached there. Did they really sweeten the pot and say, "Hey, we actually think we will need you to start. We're not just offering you backup money"? Because I think around the league, Risner is seen as a solid to better than solid backup who isn't deserving of big money. He's never gotten that second contract, that big second contract. He's been paid near the veteran minimum when he has been on subsequent contracts to his rookie contract. So I thought there might be a tell there. But the nice thing about this, James, to me, as we kind of expand this conversation into the offensive line on the whole, we talked about Risner a lot yesterday, is we're not talking about left guard right now. And maybe we're talking about left guard after week one. We've only seen Dylan Fairchild in preseason action, right? But we're not worried. We're not sweating Dylan Fairchild right now the way we're sweating some of the questions on defense based on what we saw in the preseason. And again, it's preseason. So after week one, after Myles Garrett and Mason Graham, this could be a totally different conversation. The things that we're worried about with this offensive line. But right now, it's which right guard option are we going with? We're excited about Amarius Mims. We're excited about healthy Orlando Brown. We're excited about rookie Dylan Fairchild after what he showed in the preseason. We're excited about the work Scott Peters has done with this unit, with this one big question at right guard, which, to be fair, is a big question, but feels significantly different now with Dalton Risner in the building and the perceived floor he gives you in pass protection if he does end up needing to play. I think that's kind of a nice thing for the Bengals going into week one and kind of lines up with where Dan Pitcher is. I think Dan Pitcher's pretty excited about where his offense is going into week one, as you would expect a coach to be when speaking to the media before the season. But I do think that there's a bit of a silver lining there in that, like, yeah, we're focused on right guard, but the rest of this offensive line, we haven't really been talking about a ton.
No doubt. No doubt. And in the Fairchild thing, he's going to get tested. You're right. I mean, they signed Malik Collins too, and that's someone we talked about before free agency started. You got Mason Graham in there. They have some guys, and obviously it starts and ends with 95 and Myles Garrett, but it's going to be tested. And that's what I think. I hope we are just talking about one spot, because if you have multiple guys that you're throwing at the one spot, usually one will hit. If you're banking on, all right, well, this has got to work and that's got to work and that's got to work, well, that's much tougher. And so if Fairchild fills that role, well, then you feel good about 4 of the 5 spots. It's a big question still, but so far so good. I think he has the right mentality. I think he's working extremely hard and has the skill set to do that, especially in pass protection. I mean, that's the real key, especially this week against those guys. That's what we're thinking about. Doesn't mean the running game doesn't matter. Of course it does. But keep 9 upright. Things are going to be pretty good for you if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. So it is nice that we're only talking about one spot. I hope a week from now, we're still only talking about one spot, because we will, even if whoever starts at right guard is awesome. We'll say, but it's one game. But if that's the case and Fairchild plays pretty darn well and the rest of the veterans play well, Mims isn't a veteran necessarily, but Mims, Brown, and Karras, then you're feeling pretty darn good about the state of the Bengals offensive line, which is something that, well, we've dreamt of for many, many years, it feels like.
I'll say this, if Dylan Fairchild has a good week one, I'm going to say, yeah, you're good, Dylan. Until we see you struggle, I'm not going to caveat it anymore. I mean, that's a tough out of the gate assignment. Like
on the road,
you might get a Myles Garrett trying to cross you over. I mean, usually that's on the center, to be fair, but like that one-on-one matchup could be coming for Dylan Fairchild at some point this week. And talk about a welcome to the NFL moment.
I don't know how he's going to do blocking wise, and this shouldn't be a take, but Dylan Fairchild would whoop Garrett's butt in wrestling. Just putting that out there.
Got that technical know-how, which if you've ever tried to wrestle someone who knows how to wrestle, good luck.
Bad. Yes.
Yes. Just a couple other quick notes here from Dan Pitcher, then we'll switch gears, talk defense. Very pleased with Noah Fant. Is exceeding expectations as a blocker. Charlie Goldsmith had that from Dan Pitcher on Twitter. That's an interesting tidbit to me. Excited to see the vision for Noah Fant here and how they look as they made those structural changes to their approach in the preseason. Got their starters out there. Joe Burrow feeling good about where he is, feeling like he's ahead of schedule compared to recent years. So plenty of reasons to feel good about what's happening on offense. James, let's try to find some reasons to feel good about what's happening on defense, as we still have plenty of questions there to finish the show coming up next. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel knows the NFL season is almost here. You got just days for some of these games to start, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a sweet can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in free money bonus bets to use across the app. So if you're looking at week 1, where the Bengals are tied as the biggest road favorite in the NFL this week, you think the Bengals are going to take care of business up in Cleveland, where Joe Flacco is still starting at quarterback, and we're talking about the year 2025, well, $5 over at FanDuel.com could get you $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So if you're ready to play, you can just download the FanDuel app. You can visit FanDuel.com. You can get started there. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Are you still paying full price for gas? Well, look, every viewer and listener of Locked On Bengals should not be paying full price for gas. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. I've used Upside for years now, and it's because it's free money. That's right. It's free money. All you do is download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. And you can use my limited time promo code touchdown, which Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are going to score a lot of touchdowns this season. You get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year from just buying the gas that you're already needed, that you're already buying. Don't let this offer pass by. There's no catches. I have the Upside app on my phone. It's staying there. Get in on the fun and start saving today by, again, using my limited time promo code touchdown for a 25 cents off per gallon bonus. Again, that's 25 cents per gallon and cash back. Promo code touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
Looking for reasons for optimism, James, on defense. We have plenty of questions. We have questions in the secondary where Al Golden wasn't ready to name the starter opposite Cam Taylor-Britt. Said it depends a little bit on how DJ Turner is moving as he's recovering from an injury. As Mike Pennel is in the building, is Mike Pennel your reason for optimism? Al Golden said we're going to work really hard to get him up to date, up to speed with the playbook, see where he's at by the end of the week. Thanks to Charlie Clifford for writing that quote up on X. See where he's at by the end of the week. Talking about, is he going to be active in week 1, James? I don't think that Mike Pennel is your reason for optimism, but we're going to talk about questions too. What is your, I think this is kind of an obvious answer. What is your biggest reason for optimism? What do you think is the thing that could help this defense come together in year 1 for Al Golden?
Oh, the thing that could, well, the biggest reason for optimism for me is what I saw and how they operated day in and day out during training camp. I mean, they gave up plays, but they also responded. They were super competitive. I thought that they played with a swagger, with an energy. And I talked to a bunch of veterans, and I don't think this was camp talk because it was like off record, but I don't think they would mind me sharing from this standpoint. Talked about how refreshed they were, how they felt about this season with this playbook, with this scheme, with this group of guys versus last year. And so I think that matters. Now, the biggest thing is Trey Hendrickson's going to be on the field. If you want to talk about straight talent, you get Trey back in the mix, and that's going to change things. It just is. And I think Shamar Stewart had about as good of a camp as you could have expected him to have, given where we were at going into camp. Maybe better than you could have expected him to have. And so there are reasons for optimism, but they're very much in prove it mode. We're going to be skeptical. And who knows, man? Maybe Mike Pennel is the Dylan Sampson stopper. And that's what we're talking about on Sunday. You never know. Maybe that's a reason for optimism.
As I am scrolling Twitter, as you bring Mike Pennell's name back up, I just happened upon a couple of good film notes from
Clips.
Nate Tice. Nate Tice tweeting his favorite Mike Pennell play. And in the replies, you get some other fun ones, including Mike Pennell versus Trent Williams rep from, years ago now. This is 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl. So a little bit of a generation ago as far as the NFL goes. But if you're looking for optimism for Mike Pennell, I just retweeted the Nate Tice play. So you can get some of that there. But the note you bring up about the way that the defense gave the Joe Burrow offense problems in camp, I think I am very interested to see how that plays out when it comes to game planning for other teams, opening up the playbook, finding out how much this is actually a thing that they've all been talking about after the lackluster preseason performances. I think that you're seeing a version of Cam Taylor-Britt that could be a big bounce back year for Cam Taylor-Britt, contract year there. I think that could be something that really matters for this team, the way that he went and competed with the Bengals stars at receiver throughout training camp. It was a good training camp for Cam Taylor-Britt. And yeah, I agree with you. It's Trey Hendrickson being there. Let's see what the rest of this defensive line can give and offer opposite Trey Hendrickson. But the way Sam Hubbard was playing last year, and I don't want to take a shot at Sam. He had a great career with the Bengals. Sam Hubbard was on his last legs with the Bengals last year, and really for the last couple of years. And so hopefully they can get more out of that defensive end opposite Trey Hendrickson, find a good rotation. Al Golden also talking about wanting to go 8 deep on the defensive line rotation. But I think that there are more questions than reasons for optimism right now. And hopefully we start to get some of those questions answered. This is going to be a theme, I think, this week as I talk about this week 1 matchup, James. Like, the Browns offense shouldn't be good this year. It's projected to be, by some, projected to be the worst offense in the NFL in 2025. Sounding a little bit familiar to the way we talked about the Patriots last year in some ways. The defense wasn't terrible against the Patriots last year. They had issues with tackling the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, which was weird. But it's a good way to get out to a fast start if you're this defense playing against the Browns in week 1 with where expectations are for the Browns offense, right? Like, if we see them take care of business against the Browns offense, you can start to think, okay, this will be a real defense.
For sure. Because these are the matchups that a solid, like a league average or better defense is going to handle business at, to your point. Like, I say the Dylan Sampson stopper. How many of our viewers and listeners are like, wait, Google? Well, check him out on Yahoo Fantasy because he's kind of a cool sleeper. Anyways, like that's it. Now, it doesn't mean that the Browns can't find ways to score points. They have in the past, but their defense, if they're competitive this week or any week, it's probably going to be because their defense is leading the way. Joe Flacco's making some plays, but they're not throwing the ball 50 times. And they're doing what got them to the playoffs a couple of years ago. And so a defense that's buttoned up and communicating right should be able to bottle up. Doesn't mean stop and completely shut down. It's week 1. I'm surprised you haven't said week 1 weirdness yet. I think that's coming. I think that's going to be a trademark of Jake's this week too.
Man.
Talk about themes.
Spoilers. You say the word spoiler all the time. That's where you use the word spoiler.
I spoiled it, but that could happen. Regardless, though, this defense should be able to get some stops. This shouldn't be one of the weeks where you're like, Joe, you got to go to Cleveland and get 30.
Yeah.
And most weeks, and including this week, they probably should. But this shouldn't need to be one of those weeks. They should be able to go there and win 27-13 or something in that range. Will the defense do that? We'll see. But that's certainly what a reasonable expectation if this defense is going to be better. I'm really excited to see Shamar Stewart. That'll be a theme of the week for me because the menace the menace. They need him to be a menace.
Shamar Stewart, the linebackers, the young players on defense, there's a lot that we need to see from the defense. I think that's going to be something we talk about a lot this week too, is what do we see from this defense? We're going to get our first real look at this defense that supposedly has been hiding things from the world for the entire preseason in week one in just a few days at this point. So Shamar Stewart, the linebackers, Demetrius Knight, Barrett Carter, the roles those guys have. But we're still talking about like adding players on defense, right? We're happy they added a player to the practice squad and Mike Pennel for nose tackle depth. We're still talking about them adding a safety with a couple of the safety options out there. Everyone's still talking about Justin Simmons. Everyone's still talking about Peppers as we're recording this episode. Jabril Peppers. So the interest in adding players and trying to continue to find ways to get better still there for fans, because they still watch the preseason, right? And so that's where week one of the regular season will be so interesting to see what exactly is this defense going against a bad offense in week one. Let's see if they can show up the way they finished the year last year.
Hey, Al, we're wondering, I know you're talking about Mike Pennel and getting him up to speed. How long would it take Jabril Peppers to get up to speed, do you think?
Yeah.
Are you planning on a Tuesday workout for Jabril?
Yeah. There you go. We'll see. If that Tuesday workout does happen, we'll have to reconvene, James, in one way, shape, or form. Busy schedule this week, this time of year. But we're in week one here. And we got the first coaches talking before a regular season game Monday of the regular season. Many more to come. Until next time, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day, and have a good one.